I chose to be a painter because I love the creamy texture of the oil paint. I really love how the oil paint holds the brush stroke in it and how it expresses not only the subject, but the artist's intent is bound up in the brush stroke, and I really, really love that. And before I became an artist, I was a baby in a crib. I don't remember not being involved in drawing and painting. I often look to master painters over time, which gets me into art history and the evolution of paint and techniques over time. And if I'm going to do a portrait or a style, something that's really appealing, I will find an artist or look at an artist and do a master study of their work, maybe 2 or 3 of their works, in order to understand their process. My dad was an engineer, and he often referred to reverse engineering. It's a reverse engineering of a product that someone created and understanding how they got there. Everybody has it in them to express themselves some way, and to allow people entry into that and to show them the way, to just guide them through a process so that they could do that for themselves. They can problem solve through it. I teach them, I don't give them the fish, I teach them how to fish.
My artwork, it speaks to me. It tells me when you need to come work on me, and it tells me when I'm done. Working with the gallery has just been absolutely amazing. It inspires me. Every time I walk into the gallery, from the first moment I came to Serenbe just to check out the gallery. It's just, I feel like I'm immersed with all these, oh my God, these talented artists. And it's like, you know these people, you know their stories. It just inspires me. I just sometimes just love to go in and just sit.
I chose to be a painter because my father said to me, "You're not going to hang wallpaper for the rest of your life." The place that I kind of went to as a child to enjoy who I was to draw. If you've ever seen migration in its fullest, where thousands, hundreds of thousands of animals migrate from one place to the next, that's one of the most beautiful things in the world, both auditory but visually as well. Part of the reason that I work with migration is that it's both a physical movement from one place to the next, but it's also a spiritual and intellectual movement from one place to the next. One of the hardest things I've found in my life is to overcome an obstacle that I've had in my life. It's been hard to use the phrase to migrate from one place to the next. And so to be able to use that kind of repetitious pattern as a touchstone has taught me a tremendous amount about how to go cyclically from one place to the next and be comfortable with that process. It's one of the hardest things in the world to get someone to move from one place to the next, right? Emotionally, intellectually, it's just almost impossible. But I think when I use something as beautiful as migratory pattern in my work and be able to talk to people about that, it's really something, I think, exquisite, particularly when they get it.
Before I became an artist, I was a lawyer for 20 years. I'm an environmental lawyer, and a big part of law is negotiation. And I realized that I could bring to painting some aspect of negotiation, the conflict, the connection with the viewer, and that's been an interesting part of painting. Knowing that I'm an artist makes me feel energetic at times. It brings energy and creativity to my pastimes, but the time that I have to work on art, and hopefully we'll have more and more of it.
I'm not sure I know when I was not an artist. I can only ever remember being an artist, and I vacillated between an art career and a medical career. So I was pre-med, taking art classes, pre-med, taking art classes, and eventually I just settled on art. I've been a collage artist, an assemblage artist. I naturally return, even though I've passed through painting and stained glass and a variety of other mediums. I come back to collage because it has to do with treasure hunting, collecting objects from my environment, resourcing around me, using green elements that are non-toxic as much as I can. So that is my inspiration to create clean art and art that I love working with.
What inspires me are stories about people and the tension in their lives. Typically the people I study or the robots I create have some sort of tension. You know, there's a dark side and a light side to everyone, and I explore that with the things I build or the art I make. I like to use robots in my work because I'm a sci-fi geek. My work, it really combines several different passions. One is making stuff, and I get to grind and drill and all the fun things that boys like to do, you know, throw sparks everywhere. But I also love sci-fi. I've always loved sci-fi. I'm a huge Star Wars fan, and robots has always been a fascination to me. So making them just makes me happy. One thing all my work has in common is that they all include objects that are old and have history and have been discarded in some way. I give them new life.
When I was a child, art was really not a huge part of my life until I finally got a Brownian Stamatic. And boy, I love that camera. Unfortunately, due to the cost of film at that point in time, I didn't take nearly as many pictures as I wanted to, but that was the start of it all, and I thoroughly, thoroughly loved it. And it's always been in the, in the back of my mind to, do more photography as my life progressed. I didn't choose to be a photographer. Photographer chose me. I could not do it. I just enjoyed it so much. There was no other way for me to express my inner self other than through photography. There was no choice. I just absolutely, put me behind the camera and set me loose, and I'm having fun. I'm just loving what I'm doing. To get into the gallery, you have to be juried in. We have to select you to be in the gallery. You must apply. You can't just, automatically become a member. You must submit your art, and all of the members of the gallery will decide whether or not you will become a member of the gallery. And that has resulted in a certain level of excellence that the artists in the gallery have maintained.
I do mixed media, acrylic on canvas. So it's a combination of metal, wood, wire, and I always start with a sketch, and then I go from a sketch to the finished product as far as what's going to go on the canvas. Then I look at what mixed mediums I'm going to be using, and the sketch really guides me and tells me what I'm going to be doing for its entire, from start to finish. So it's very structured actually, because I measure on my sketches, I decide what colors I'm going to be using on my sketches, I decide what metals, and it's all written down before I begin the project. Knowing that I'm an artist makes me feel connected to my ancestry. I come from a long line of artistic people. And so you'll see people that landscaping, interior design, architecture. So it's always kind of in our blood to do artistic adventures, and you travel and you go to art museums. So it's just really been in my blood from birth to be in the arts.
I am typically right now working in mixed media. It's a lot of water-based layering of colors, and you probably know me by my palette more than my work itself, because I gravitate to a very similar palette over the years. It just keeps coming back to that. I love colors, I love mixing colors, working with colors, and a lot of it's abstract. And right now I would say I'm kind of jumping some lines between some realism and some abstract incorporated together. I am so happy when I'm painting. I'm painting better when I'm happy. It's just a fabulous thing to be able to call yourself an artist. And it took many years of my life before I was actually calling myself an artist. That's a tricky one, is when do you cross over that line? So, but I do now.
I'm a jewelry designer. My medium are tiny glass beads that I weave together using fishing line or silk thread. Working with the Chatt Hills Gallery has made my art so much better. It has given it more dimension, because I was in the gallery just the other day. I was walking in to drop off another piece, and I stood in the middle of the gallery and I just looked at all of the art around me, and it was so inspiring to see the work of other hands and to want to make my pieces worthy of being among those.
I work in a variety of mediums, from ceramics to painting, textile art, and I love to combine them. I had cancer and I had a lot of time in bed, and I was asked by Serenbe to put on a show, and so I started off by embroidering, because that's all I could do at first. And I was embroidering trees, and I wasn't able to put anything on display on tables or stands. I had to put everything on the wall. So I decided to take these ceramic pieces and start attaching them to my canvases. And I ended up with a combination of embroidery and ceramics, and I sew the ceramics onto the canvas. And that has become my thing, and I've looked everywhere, and I can't seem to find anyone else doing ceramics sewn onto canvas. So it seems like I've kind of created a new combination or technique, which is kind of my thing now.
Chose to be a metalsmith because I've always had a lot of interest in jewelry. So when I was in my 20s, one of my favorite cousins and I would make our own jewelry to go out to do things and that sort of thing. And we just found so much joy in it. We literally would stay up for like hours. Get my inspiration from the world, events, my children who constantly tell me how unfashionable I am. So, which is really inspiring, by the way, because it makes me want to prove them otherwise.
When I was a child, art was all around me. Art was all I knew. My mother was an artist. My mother painted flowers all over the house, on the walls. She even painted flowers on the toilet seat. My earliest memory was of my mother with a paintbrush. So I was very intrigued by art at a very early age. I'm a fine art photographer, and I use a variety of techniques to enhance my art. I paint digitally rather than with a paintbrush. And a lot of people ask me, is that a painting or is that a photograph? They're not sure, and I enjoy that. I like the idea that I can use a variety of techniques and a little bit of magic to create something that's not been there before. I don't like to just copy nature. I like to enhance it and play with it. I feel like I'm a visual storyteller, and every flower, every animal has a story to tell, and through me, they tell me the story, and I'm able to then create what I hear. Knowing that I'm an artist makes me feel whole. It makes me feel that I am doing what I was meant to be doing.
I'm an abstract painter working in watercolor on Yupo paper. Before I became an artist, I was a wild child running through the hills of Colorado, riding horses and experiencing nature. And so that same experience of nature I brought into my abstract work. I started the Chatt Hills artist co-op when I moved to Serenbe and realized after all of the amazing cultural things, there was a lack of inspiration and encouragement of the artists that we were around. So about 2017, a small group of us got together in order to exhibit our work. And it was a pretty ragtag bunch learning how to frame their work and exhibit it. And slowly over time, all of the artists really have developed their work and are so supportive of each other. And it's become a greater community treasure because we talk about our art with our neighbors and they know us and they know our work and they can see when we grow and change styles and develop. So I'm very pleased about the gallery and the co-op and now the paint space and changing a whole community through art. All of the artists that are represented at the gallery are local artists and they work in a variety of mediums and they're inspiring each and every one in their own right. They also are expanding and doing things outside the community and so we really support each other and I just love that.
Come visit us at the Chatt Hills Gallery at Serenbe, located in the heart of Georgia's Chattahoochee Hills.